Roger Godsiff.
Mr Deputy Speaker, ordinary people in my constituency facing the massive pressures on their household budgets and looking forward to a bleak Christmas are really not too concerned about the blame game being played out between the parties. But there is, however, a smouldering resentment against the financial sector and the banks and financial institutions who have plunged the economy into recession, destroyed jobs and ripped people's lives apart. And this resentment is worse, Mr Deputy Speaker, because these self-same banks and financial institutions are once again acting as they did before they brought the crisis upon us. Bonuses galore and veiled threats that if regulations are brought in, they will go elsewhere. Mr Deputy Speaker, it needs to be restated again and again, and this is 3 years after the financial crisis struck, that the financial crisis was not caused by nurses and teachers. It was not caused by public sector workers or people working in the private sector. It was not caused by small businessmen, students or retired people, or indeed, it was not caused by the majority of people working in the financial sector. It was caused by the greed and irresponsibility of a small, self-serving group of people who made the decisions and played the casino, and everybody else is now paying the price. Mr Deputy Speaker, between 1992, when the UK was thankfully forced out of the ERM, and right through until 2007, the British economy grew every year under Kenneth Clarke as Chancellor of the Exchequer and then under Labour Chancellors, and public sector borrowing was consistently between 2 and 3% of GDP, which was perfectly sustainable. It shot up in 2008 to 11% because the financial crisis, which was caused by those self-same people I've referred to, resulted in a full-blown recession and a collapse in tax revenues, and furthermore the need by the government to bail out the banking sector. And I'm sure my honourable friend, my right honourable friend who has spoken previously, refers in his book to the interesting deputation that he had from Treasury officials who said to him that the only way the crisis could be resolved is if he was to nationalise the banks. Mr Deputy Speaker, Mervyn King was right when he told the Treasury Committee that he was surprised that there was not more public anger about at this moment in time. But, Mr Deputy Speaker, we have to look forward, and Britain and the Western world is witnessing the death throes of an ideology that has dominated for 30 years. The Anglo-Saxon neoliberal market model has failed, and we have to look at different models with the financial services sector, which is fit for purpose. We need to be more innovative. We need to try out new ideas, not the tried, failed traditional recipes which have been found wanting and which are now totally discredited. Why not, for example, use RBS? It is, after all, 87% owned by us, as a national investment bank. Call it what you will. Why don't we have it modelled on America's Small Business Administration, which has supplied 20 million small businessmen with financial help since it was set up after the Second World War, or indeed Germany's State Development Bank, which in 2010 alone lent 30 billion euros to businesses. Why not, Mr Deputy Speaker, instead of printing money through so-called quantitative easing and giving it to the banks, who don't lend it but hoard it to rebuild their capital base, why don't we give money vouchers to consumers which are time-limited and had to be spent on household goods or on scrappage schemes, for example, for cars? Why don't we try out some new ideas? Because the fastest way to stimulate the economy is from the bottom upwards, and no job creation schemes could have more immediate effect than keeping the high street alive. At this moment in time, everybody in this House knows of high streets in their constituencies where you have boarded up shops and the only new shops are poundlands and charity shops. And this, Mr Deputy Speaker, is not revolutionary thinking. It's been tried before in America, Japan and China. People are looking for new ideas for the future, and in doing so they are prepared to accept radical and innovative policies. They don't want to be lectured by the government or by the Governor of the Bank of England, who hardly had great foresight in seeing the recession coming when he was arguing for increased interest rates right up until the end of 2008 to head off what he said was the biggest threat to recovery, inflation. Mr Deputy Speaker, for too long we paid homage to the bank and financial institutions. We need to construct a better financial system that's fit for purpose, and we need to do it sooner rather than later.